As I've outlined in my testimony, Congress has the ability to make the next highway bill the most pro-trucker, pro-safety bill in history, but only if you commit to prioritizing the needs of truckers.
That was part of OOIDA Executive Vice President Lewie Pugh's message to lawmakers last week when he testified before a Senate subcommittee. Today, we're going to get the full story. Welcome to Trucking with OOIDA. I'm Scott Thompson without my co-driver Ashley today, but we've brought in a ringer. You just heard him right there, and here he is, Lewie Pugh. How you doing?
Hey, glad to be on his show. I'm a little disappointed Ashley's not here.
I know.
I like working with her skill set, but
you gotta settle for me.
I can learn myself.
Well, we're gonna run team today. Have you ever run team?
No.
I mean, kind of with Todd. Going to truck shows, kind of.
No.
You don't want to elaborate on that, do you? No.
No, we not true team. We both are awake. I'm not a guy who can sleep when other people drive.
Oh, all right. That's good to know.
What I mean, I don't even like to let other people drive.
It's a control thing. You like to be in control.
A control thing, yeah.
So what do you do when someone else is driving? Are you like the slamming on the brakes in the passenger seat kind of guy?
Slamming on brakes, saying
backseat driver.
Yeah, well, passenger seat driver, but yeah.
Nobody puts Lewie Pugh in the backseat
exactly.
of a
vehicle. You can ask Jill. She'll be like, if you don't shut up, you can go back to driving. Like we drive back to Ohio or something like that. She'll be driving, and I'll be like, what are you doing? Why are you ever, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, would you just shut up? Of course, she does the same thing to me.
Yeah.
She'll start on me when I'm driving, and I say two things to her. I usually say, remember, I've pissed over more guardrails than you've ever driven past.
Right.
So be quiet, and then
how does she react to that?
She's used to the whole
brushes
package.
You off.
But then and then she'll keep it up, and then I'll remind her. I say, I don't know how in God's world I drove 2.5 million miles in a semi truck to New York City and New Philly and all these great places in the East Coast, Chicago, without you here telling me what to do. And she's like, I don't know how you did it either.
Jill, I think Jill's a saint. I think we should apply for sainthood for her for dealing with you, Lewie Pugh. Speaking of people dealing with you,
bro code, man.
Hey, man, I'm just telling it like it is.
The Little Rascals, He-Man Woman Haters Club thing.
Wow, you're going way back.
Yeah.
How old are you, Louie? Yeah,
old enough to know Spanky and Alfalfa.
That's right. That's right. With the hair, Alfalfa with the hair, right? Yeah, the little thing. Speaking of people having to deal with you, you went to Washington, D.C. last week, as we mentioned there, appearing before a Senate subcommittee on surface transportation. Let's kind of go over kind of what this was about here. You were in the hot seat. We had Chris Spear of the American Trucking Associations there as well, Sean O'Brien of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, and also a representative of the bus industry. Again, I want to go over the main talking points with you and kind of give you a chance to maybe answer some of the questions you didn't get a chance to answer during the hearing. One, because those things move super quickly, right? There's questions kind of going back and forth, and they're pulling time away. And also, I think some of the questions that were asked were pretty good. They didn't get directed at you, though, and you didn't really get a chance to talk about some of these things. So I kind of want to go over
I got a little frustrated with that.
I was going to ask you, because that's got to be frustrating.
You want to talk. And, and for folks out there, because I've seen this a lot on social media feeds and stuff. Why didn't you bring this up? Why didn't you bring that up? Why didn't you bring this up? Well, it's not free conversation. You have to be asked a question.
You can't just interrupt a senator when
you're allowed to. You get your opening comments, and then you hope that you get asked the questions. You try to plant some questions, and sometimes it plays out well, and sometimes you sit there on your hands trying not to explode because you want to say something that you don't get to.
There was one question, I think, on driver retention and the turnover in the industry, and I think it was directed at Sean O'Brien of the Teamsters, and I was sitting there thinking, oh man, Louie's going to knock this out of the ballpark. When they asked him this question, I know
exactly what question you're asking,
and they just it went right to Sean O'Brien, and they never came to you. I'm sure you were just sitting there thinking, like, come on, put me in the game, coach.
Yeah,
but it never came.
Yeah, there was that, and a couple of the autonomous vehicles I'd have liked to have got into because they were missing, I think, key points. Of course, ATA is for it. Teamsters and us are against it, but they were missing the point on cybersecurity.
Yeah.
That didn't get brought up. A lot of componentry comes from overseas and places that don't like us, like China and stuff.
Yeah.
There's stuff like that we need to talk about. And and stuff that didn't get brought up that I think is very important.
Yeah.
And how about the driver shortage? Isn't it
man.
funny that everybody in the world knows there isn't one except for the American Trucking Association?
That's what I wanted to talk to you about, because Chris Spear isn't just like still banging on this drum about, the driver shortage myth. And I always throw the quotation, the rabbit ear quotations up anytime I say that.
Now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
About hit me in the head.
He brought this up. I mean, every single issue that was brought up, Spear brought it back to the, again, quote unquote, driver shortage myth.
They doubled down on it.
Yeah, they really did. I mean, he said at one point that it's a fact that there is a driver shortage. But if you listen closely enough to what he was saying and kind of how he was framing it, at least when I was listening, I was thinking this is pretty clear what he's trying to do. He's tying it to, bigger, heavier trucks. He's tying it to autonomous vehicles, tying it to lowering the driver age as well. All these were subjects that came up last week during that hearing. The driver shortage thing, he kept bringing it up and up. And he was sitting, 2 or 3 feet away from you, I guess, to your right. You must have been, every time that came up, you must have just been like vibrating in your chair thinking like, what are we doing here?
Well, a little bit. I was more thinking, you're a smart guy. I thought y'all knew there is no driver shortage, but
I mean, honestly, do you think he knows? I mean, do you think he knows that? And I don't want to disparage anybody, and we're not doing that at all.
I think, personally, I think they know there's no driver shortage. I mean, Snyder told him one of their conferences last year and a thing said they have no driver shortage. I mean, I think this always gets said the wrong way. We have an experienced driver shortage due to the retention problem in our industry. As far as a driver shortage of people coming in our industry, there isn't one, and they don't preface it that way. They just say there's a driver shortage, and they don't preface it that way because the things that they are pushing, most of the things, not all the things, some of the major things they're pushing, the driver shortage is the only thing they can really point at of why you would need these things.
It's kind of an easy on-ramp into those issues, right?
We don't want to train truckers or take a lot of time training them because we have this shortage and we need to get butts in the seats, I always say it's like Vietnam with infantrymen. We just need to get them across the pond and put them in front of the cannons. Yeah. And it's the same thing. We need to get these butts in the seats and get them out there on the highway and hope that they survive. And so that means we don't train them. We don't have to pay them, that much. We make up, and then we can also say, we need the government, state governments or federal, to give us some money to pay for training to help offset our training costs because, we're trying to help all these poor people get into our industry. So stuff like that. And then, of course, autonomous vehicles. We need autonomous vehicles because we can't find enough truck drivers. And we need longer, heavier trucks because we can't find enough truck drivers. And the only thing that they can use to justify that is a driver shortage that we don't have.
Well, and that was the thing, too, I thought was interesting is that you've been obviously in the game a lot longer than I have. But even over the past few years, I feel like I have seen a shift in kind of that opinion of the driver shortage. And I feel like more people are kind of coming to the realization of what the reality is out there. I mean, you had senators kind of bringing this up at various times and in different ways. But one of the questions that I wished had been directed at you, and again, Sean O'Brien was the one it was directed towards, so he was the one that answered. But I think it was something along the lines of the 90% turnover rate and whether you believe that's a sign of a healthy industry. I think the question answers itself, obviously, if you have a 90% turnover rate, which is insane to think about. But
I agree, and I wish to ask because the other thing I would have liked to say in my response is, Mr. Spear, if you believe so much that there's a driver shortage, why didn't you show up in last fall to debate and debate me on it?
Is that Freight Waves
debate, Freight Waves
right?
had that debate thing I showed, they didn't.
Yeah.
There were no shows.
Well, and then the gentleman...
So what better place to come prove that OOIDA's wrong is in a debate?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or I guess this well-educated trucking association leader who's got all kinds of education and everything, we're afraid to take on some dumb hillbilly trucker. I can think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and also, that would be a setting too, if you're sitting in that chamber, that would be a place to talk about that as well too. Senator Klobuchar asked another question. That was another one that I thought, man, I wish Lewie had gotten this question, because she was asking about retention and what we need to do to keep safe professional drivers in the industry. Again, right in your wheelhouse. It wasn't directed at you. Sean O'Brien did a good job, I think.
Oh yeah, Sean O'Brien did a great job and did a fabulous job answering everything. I mean, when it comes, OOIDA and the Teamsters have our differences, but on this kind of stuff we agree on. I mean, DC makes strange bedfellows sometimes, but yeah, we agree 100%. And I mean, I told this to a lot of lawmakers. I mean, the first thing is listen to what truckers tell you, but we need to train them, we need to pay them, and we need to have a place to park. Those are three things right off the top that we need to see done to fix this, to make highways safer. Mm-hmm. We got this English language proficiency. That was definitely a needed, necessary thing. But I mean, at the end of the day, train them, pay them, and give them a good place to get a night's rest.
And you told that to them behind closed doors.
Yes, behind closed doors. Because while I was in D.C., not only was I at this hearing, but we had a lot of meetings and stuff with lawmakers on the Hill. We talked about that. We talked about the CDL problem with the non-domicile CDLs and the Class B visas and all this kind of stuff as well. And I mean, that's what people think. I mean, people saw these hearings, and like I said, it was kind of, I don't want to say funny, but it was interesting, your comments on social, because everybody's like, why didn't you bring this up, bro? That non-domicile. Well, again, it's not free conversation.
You can't just stand up and raise your hand and start talking.
Yeah. And then, but before and after, we have other meetings that aren't out there publicly. Yeah. And we talk about these things. And
I certainly want to get into that too. Before we kind of turn, though, I want to just put a bow on this driver shortage conversation too, because again, a number of senators brought it up and kind of took on the issue, I think, on the side of there not being a driver shortage. Senator Ed Markey, which kind of surprised me a little bit too, he essentially went right at Chris Spear about, kind of perpetuating this driver shortage myth, and essentially said there isn't one. This is about retention. That kind of surprised me when I heard Senator Markey talking. Senator Markey, throughout the years has kind of put forward some legislation that we'll say is not exactly trucker friendly. But on this issue, he was spot on. Did that kind of surprise you?
No, but I've had meetings with his office, I mean, again, we have to work both sides of the aisle.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, I was expecting the question that Mr. O'Brien got was coming to me, but it went to him, which is fine.
Which was the retention one?
The retention and stuff as well, because I would have liked to answer that question, but he got. But, I mean, things that truckers need to do, though, you need to win, because there's still lawmakers who are legislating and regulating, thinking there is a driver shortage, no matter how bad we try to tell them there isn't. So that's one thing. When you're reaching out to your lawmaker and remind them that there's no driver shortage. Say, I'm a truck driver, there's no shortage out here.
Is the tide turning on this issue a little bit? Like I said earlier.
I think it's turning huge. I mean, as far as the trucking and that world, I feel like ATA is dying on that hill. They're the only ones left on top of that hill screaming driver shortage. I think everybody else has kind of give it up. I think there's been plenty of proof and showing it and realized it. OOIDA's been saying this forever, that there's not been one, and everybody else is finally catching on. There's been plenty of studies from Bureau of Labor and all these other places to show there's no driver shortage. I mean, just look, driver pay hasn't kept up with inflation. I chuckled when Spears said, "Well, if you think there's not a shortage, pays went up like 18%." Well, 18% of nothing's still nothing, buddy. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
But this is crazy. But when you reach out to your lawmakers, just throw that at the end. There's no driver shortage, media, everybody's starting to,
Well, and when you make that point too, don't just say that there isn't one. Again, like you said earlier, tie it to retention, tie it to the point that truck drivers need to be compensated for all their time.
When lawmakers and regulators ask me about the shortage, if it comes up or whatever, and I've had DOT people just say stuff. My first question is, the people that are telling you there's a driver shortage, first question you ask. Are you hiring new people into the industry, or are you hiring people with some experience? Because most carriers hire people with experience.
Right.
There's not very many people hired new. And I said, when they say that they hire experienced people or people with experience, that's when I say, that's where it comes. And here's where it is. We have a shortage of experienced drivers because there's a bad retention, 90% retention.
Yeah.
90% of the truckers who come in here don't stay a year. It seems like they're in and out and gone. So that's why. It's not that there's a driver shortage per se. There's a driver retention problem, experience shortage.
Let's talk about some of the other issues that came up. And again, I think the myth of a driver shortage was kind of like a through point for a lot of these issues. And again, I think, we saw this throughout, lowering the driving age for interstate truckers.
Driver shortage.
Exactly. Yeah, it's tied to that too. And it was tied to that too. I know Senator Todd Young spent some time talking up the Drive Safe Act, which again would lower the age for interstate trucking. He supports that. He raised the idea that you could have a truck driver who's 18 or 19 years old driving all over. I think Kentucky was a state that he used as an example. That person cannot cross into Indiana or Tennessee, though. Chris Spear used that opportunity to talk about why it's necessary to bring these younger drivers into the industry because of I'll put the rabbit ears up again, shortage, To Senator Young's credit, he did give you a chance to kind of respond.
I was a little surprised they did, but I appreciate Senator Young. Good for him.
Absolutely,
because I called that out in my opening testimony, how that 18 to 20-year-old thing was bullshit.
Yeah.
And it was being funded by taxpayer money, and it's been a colossal failure. And so he did. And my whole point was, I understand the argument, and I'm going to use Kansas City, for example.
Sure, yeah.
That a kid in Kansas City, Missouri can drive clear to St. Louis,
but can't go
which is almost
15
300
miles across the
but can't
border,
cross the state line into Kansas KCK.
Yeah.
Go over to the speedway that's 15 miles down the road or whatever.
Yeah.
In a truck. But he can drive all the way to Joplin or the Boot Hill or St. Louis.
Yeah.
So I agree. That doesn't make any sense.
Your point, though.
But my point is, and the thing I think we should do is 150-mile air radius, the same as the local haul exemption, the same as agricultural exemption. Then a kid, or I should say a kid, a young adult who wants to get into trucking, he can drive 150-mile air radius all around. You can find local dump truck jobs, construction jobs, stuff like that they'll hire him. He can get the experience and maybe he wants to go over the road. And it gives him an opportunity to drive in an area that he's familiar with. Because the whole thing I say is, if you have a kid who grew up in Orlando, Florida, he's never left Florida, now becomes a young adult, only car he ever drove was a Prius, and he gets in a truck and he rides around for 400 hours training in Florida. It's January, and they send him to the Northwest, or they send him to Maine or somewhere.
It's a recipe for disaster.
He's never seen snow. It's a recipe for disaster. He's doing something that he's very new at. He doesn't, and I know there's truckers listening to this right now going, by God, I learned to drive when I was 15 years and blah, 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 blah. Hey, I did too.
Yeah.
I did too. Different world we live in today.
Yeah.
Traffic is way heavier. There's way more traffic. There's way more things out here to make people not pay attention to driving.
On their phones.
The touch screen in your damn car.
Yeah.
Is crazy.
Yeah.
All the crap. There's so many distractions out here. That's different. People are just different. Everybody's in a hurry. We don't have courtesy on the highway like we once did. There's so many different factors. Plus, I always remind people, back when I started, before a lot of these people, they came from the farm, they came from the country, they've been doing stuff like this. Mm-hmm. That's me, I have farm background. Most kids don't no more.
Yeah. A lot of kids don't want to get their license.
Yeah, there's 16. Kids that don't even get their license till they're 18 or 12. I mean, I know a kid who didn't get a license when he was 21 years old. I'm like, I couldn't wait to get my driver's license.
Get out of the house. Yeah,
I'm gone.
I was the same,
So it's a different, so for those out there who's slamming the red dash and saying, it's a different world. We live in a different world.
Yeah, it's like that old man shaking their fist at the wind.
Yeah, it's me most of the time.
Me too, exactly. Yeah. I thought you brought up a good point too when you talked about that pilot program that, as you said, has been a colossal failure. Participation has been
like 30
almost
people or 40 people.
Like minimal. I don't even know what the right word is. But they're continuing to kind of do this. They took away the requirements. The inward-facing camera issue you brought up during the hearing I thought was great, too. The hypocrisy of taking that requirement away from, teenage drivers. But we've got this new bill, this Modern Worker Empowerment Act, that would essentially open the gates for inward-facing cameras
on owner-operators that are leased to a carrier. How freaking stupid! We're saying that we can't get 18 and 20-year-olds because of inward-facing cameras, and I'm not a proponent of inward-facing cameras for anyone.
Yeah. It's the hypocrisy that you're pointing out.
Yeah, it's just hypocrisy. But yet we're going to turn around and pass a bill where a giant motor carrier can put an inward-facing camera on the owner-operator, and that's not control.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's so crazy. I say this all the time. We need a graduated system or something licensing, because why should a guy or a gal who has 20 or 30 years of safe driving experience have to follow the same rules and regulations that some kid right out of trucking school has to follow?
That's interesting. Talk about that. The idea of having kind of tiers, I guess, of experience.
I mean, FMCSA hates it when I tell them that. I say it every time I'm over here. I had 2.5 million miles of drive when I parked my truck safe.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, I know when to go to bed. I know when to wake up. I know when to drive. I know when I'm tired. I know all these things.
You know how not to run into things.
Why don't you have to have a logbook?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
They
don't. I'm sure they don't.
They cringe.
I was going to say, I can imagine the faces in the room.
But it's the truth. Why do I, somebody who's proven, and all these other, and there's way truckers out there got way more miles and experience and safety than I ever had. Why do they have to follow these same stupid rules? Why do they need a logbook? Because again, after 10 years, 1 million miles or so of safe driving, you probably know what you're doing.
You would hope and think.
And I drove truck before I had ELD, so I didn't have a computer to tell me I was tired.
Yeah, I know. Well, again, times are different for sure. Absolutely. We've got a few minutes before we got to take a break, Lou. I want to talk to you about autonomous technology, though. And we kind of talked about it a moment ago there. Another issue that it was very clear the lines in the room, right? Because you had Chris Spear talking in support of autonomous vehicles, and then you had yourself, you had Sean O'Brien on the other side of this. O'Brien, I think, said that this is the biggest threat to the trucking industry right now. Chris Spear was continuing to kind of push this ball down the road. You did not get a chance to really talk about it. And you mentioned it earlier, cybersecurity, concerns about China. If you had been able to talk about autonomous vehicles, autonomous trucks in particular, what would you have said in the room there to the lawmakers? I
mean, I first of all would have brought up cybersecurity, because I think that's a huge issue with autonomous vehicles. I mean, I've seen stuff on TV where they hack into minivans with a laptop and they can start them, shut the brakes off, all these different things. So I find that very scary, because there's lots of places in this world where people don't like us. And how easy would it be for them to hack into? Well,
we saw I think it was Colorado State University a couple years ago did that. Basically not an experiment, but they hacked into an ELD, right? And they essentially found out that it's a lot easier than
FBI says all the time. People can track our trucks now, so now we're going to let these trucks go without a driver. That's it. That's that. Second thing, parts come from China and places that don't like us. That's pretty damn scary. People forget trucks haul everything from freaking Pampers to bombs. Yeah. So, that's very scary to me. I mean, all it's going to take is maybe the autonomous truck doesn't haul the explosive, but what about the explosive truck the autonomous truck is passing? Right. I mean, because surely to God, we're not going to do that, be that stupid and let them pull this hazardous stuff. But all it's got to do, I mean, I passed a explosive truck going home yesterday from work. So how hard is it? So I think that's the things that we have to talk about and think about. Who's liable when they have accidents? That's what does that land? What's that look like?
We're going to see the first bad accident we see with an autonomous truck, whether, it's in Texas or whatever the circumstances are.
Oh, that shit's going to be shut down for...
It's going to be interesting because you're going to see a lawsuit. I think you talk about nuclear verdicts. You're going to see a lawsuit seeking... I don't know how many millions or hundreds of millions of dollars.
God forbid it happens, but I think all the time, if we have a massive accident with one of these things, it's going to change the whole outlook on it. And here's the thing. We don't have this mastered in cars. How many times is Tesla's wrecking and stuff? I don't think we should be putting in 80,000-pound vehicles, but I've actually talked to autonomous vehicle people who have told me, which I think's crazy. I don't believe it. Well, it's easier to put this stuff on a truck than it is a passenger car.
What?
And I'm like, how's that work? Because every load you haul handles different, all these things. And again, I think it's just people trying to sell their gimmick.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, and I don't envy the lawmakers on this issue because they're basically are being tasked with coming up with a framework for how this is going to look.
It ain't hard to be the lawmaker. You say, hell no.
Yeah,
this is
I
stupid.
suppose.
Question it. But instead, we have these lawmakers, unfortunately, who on this side of the aisle, they do this, and on this side of the aisle, do this. And it's just because whoever's in charge on each side's telling them it's what they want to do, and everybody's afraid to work across the aisle and follow the money and all this other stuff. We need common sense. We need people to get back together. We need the Ronald Reagan Tip O'Neill days or something, because this stuff of party politics, that's how this stupid stuff is escalating.
I get the feeling though that they're going a different direction, just based on what I'm hearing, in public in these hearings. I think Senator Cruz had asked, about the framework. I don't know exactly where he's headed with this, or whatnot,
he's for it because Texas is the biggest proponent of it, because they're making gazillions of dollars off of it, using the people on Texas highways as test rats.
Yeah, and again, I don't know. I mean, we talked with Missy Cummings, who has researched this topic extensively over recent years, and she's very bearish on the idea that this thing is going to, autonomous trucks at least are going to gain any traction over the coming years. I think she's probably right, and I think you're probably right as well. But again, I think it's going to take one really bad accident for things to really take a turn.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand Mr. O'Brien's point. I don't think it's the biggest threat on trucking today, but I mean, it's a threat, but I think that.
And we're back here on Trucking with OOIDA, still joined by Lewie Pugh, Executive Vice President of OOIDA. Lewie, we're talking about the hearing and your testimony there, and the questions that were asked of you and the questions that weren't asked of you. One that I think didn't come your way either, and we can kind of go through some of these issues pretty quickly here, but it's a huge issue right now, non-domiciled CDLs. We're seeing some action on it from regulators, it seems like, and we're kind of moving in the right direction here. But generally speaking, this is an issue that is a big one that needs addressing, and, where do you stand on this, and where does the association stand on it, I guess, and where are we headed with it?
The non-domicile is something that, OOIDA, of course, we got into this along with the B1 visas and the English language proficiency stuff. We got into all that stuff at the same time, and it's been a while ago now. And we started having members call in and complain, and we heard some stuff at meetings with law enforcement about this stuff. So we started asking questions. What we found is nobody's really keeping track. Mm-hmm. Nobody knows who's coming in. So we turned up the heat, and of course, on the non-English speaking, we found out there's been lots of problems with that. So we did get that petition passed, as we've talked about before, CVSA and everything in our service. But yeah, FMCSA and them are studying this, trying to research, figure this stuff out. It's funny, like nobody has records or
It seems like a problem.
And I mean, even landlines reached out for freedom of information stuff.
We're waiting.
Just waiting. But I know it's frustrating, but we are working on it behind the scenes. I have to keep in mind, and I know that members hate you, but some of this stuff you have to keep in mind because not everything's for public and ready to be out yet. But there are people looking at this. I can assure you people are looking at this. There are lots of concerns on Capitol Hill and in DOT about all this. It's just everybody's trying to get their ducks in a row.
Let's keep going through the issues here. Automatic emergency braking. I know Senator Lujan during the hearing there. Well,
he loves those things.
He did, and I think he has a personal connection to this. He recounted, a tragic story of two brothers who were killed in New Mexico in a crash involving a semi. I think he said the cruise control was, set at 65 miles an hour. The brakes were never applied. He used that to advocate for automatic emergency braking technology in semis. This is, I think, when you look at, that kind of situation, it is a little bit complicated. But OOIDA's stance on this is essentially saying this technology has too many flaws. It actually would lead to unsafe conditions.
Yeah, and that's what I would say to Senator Lujan. But let's keep this in check. What happens? There's constantly, we hear of false activations. I've driven our semi and we have false activations with shadows or whatever sets it off. If that happens on black ice,
with an 80,000 pound,
you can, you have, so there's the unintended consequences of this stuff is what, and this happens all the time with everything. They're not just this.
Yeah.
We don't want to talk about the unintended, and sometimes the unintended consequences are worse than the consequences of this.
Well, this is one of these issues.
And we don't even know.
Yeah.
Let's say it did have a man. It still may not work.
It may not have worked, yeah. And again, I think this is one of these situations, especially with trucking, because there are so many people who don't understand the ins and outs of the industry. This kind of thing probably sounds good on paper, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But when you talk about the unintended that's the thing that is a little bit more difficult, I think, for people to come around on and understand.
Exactly.
And we're looking at that with this situation perhaps there. Real quick here, Lewie, too. You talked about the meetings behind closed doors. Again, the spotlight is on that hearing, but you were in Washington, D.C. for, 3 or 4 days, I think?
4 days.
4 days, meeting with lawmakers behind the scenes. Do you know roughly how many people you met with? And their staff, obviously, were included.
Oh, we met with probably 8 or 10 folks along with some reporters and stuff as well.
And the issues being discussed, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about here, was there anything in particular that stood out? Got Truckers Act. I know you're trying to get some support for that.
Truckers Act was a big conversation. Truckers need to reach out about that, but we had some good feedback on that maybe coming here in the future, I'm hoping. Also, this whole independent contractor rule, we had a breakthrough that's kind of being pushed by Republicans. We had a couple of Republicans that we met with and said, we're fine with the language except for the control factor that ATA wants put in there, what we were talking about earlier, where they can put so-called safety devices in your truck.
Put those air quotes up.
Driver-facing camera, speed limits, all that stuff. As long as that in there, OOIDA won't support it. Mm-hmm. And so I said, I don't know how you consider anything more control than to put in a driver management tool in a truck, on someone's truck that's not your driver.
Yeah.
They're at least to you, it's their truck.
Right. Yeah.
And so they understood that and agreed. So they didn't vote no, but they didn't vote for it in markup. But that's a good thing because that means down the road they're going to have these conversations and hopefully get that yanked out of there.
Overall productive trip, it sounds like.
It's always productive. And that goes to hats off to the guys down in D.C. That's not me. They're the ones who lay the groundwork and the foundation and have the meetings and then I guess come in and be the closer, I guess, for lack of better terms.
You're the Dennis Eckersley of OOIDA.
But yeah.
I'm not sure if there's a more timely reference. But he's the guy I go to.
OOIDA's a great place to work at because, it's like NASCAR or whatever. We got a great pit crew, and not just at DC, but everybody here at headquarters, know, everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like you. If it wasn't for Jim Fessler back here behind
I would sound like a bumbling mess.
Exactly, but he makes you sound good.
That's
and
right.
Me too. So hats off to Jim.
Well, just wait till AI takes over my job, and there'll be an AI version of me who will actually
Jim's
be
working
able to put
on
sentences together. I'm sure he is. He's hard at work in the lab back there. Let's go talk a few things here and kind of go speed round, I suppose, if we can, Lewie. Derek Bars appears on a path toward confirmation as a new leader of FMCSA. His nomination passed out of committee on Wednesday. OOIDA supports his nomination. Looks like he's going to take the lead. Any thoughts on Mr. Bars and his path?
Yeah, he's gotten some bad flack on radio because he was on some panels for ATA in the past and enforcement and all that stuff. And I understand. I agree with truckers. It'd be great to have somebody in that office as a CDL.
Yeah,
Mr.
it would.
Bars does it instead of somebody in that building with a CDL.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I know Mr. Bars. I've worked with Mr. Bars at CVSA. I don't think he's the devil that some people are making him out to be. Mm-hmm. He's a good person. He comes from a very, very small town. He respects and understands truckers. He's actually got some pretty good stories about truckers and stuff with his enforcement,
We'll have to get him on the show.
But Mr. Bars is a good guy. Is he going to make everybody happy all the time? No.
Nobody is.
Nobody is, and that's not a job where you get that ability. So I think that he'll be good. I think he'll do a good job. I think he'll listen and try to do his best. But is he going to give trucking everything we want? No. But nobody. Todd Spencer could be the FMCSA, administrator. I'd love to have him, but he's not going to give everybody what they want either.
No, you just want somebody in a position like that who's willing to listen and take feedback and consider all the sides of a story.
And DOT's been doing a really good job at that lately.
To their credit.
And with Mr. Bars, I think we'll continue to see that.
Let's talk about the wall that heals. I know you were involved in this. OOIDA is involved in this as well. It's in Buckner, Missouri this weekend or week, I believe. This is the replica of the Vietnam War memorial that we see in Washington, D.C. You were part of kind of escorting this through the area on, Tuesday, I think it was. Talk a little bit about that. It's a really cool experience. It's one of these experiences where, everybody benefits.
Yeah, me and Todd both, we rode our bikes and were escorts of the wall. I mean, that traveling wall that heals, it goes around. I've seen it multiple. I've escorted it in other places in the past. It's cool. They bring a semi in and picks up the trailer, and we escorted it from the I-70 Speedway to Buckner. I don't know, it was about 15, 20 miles.
Mm-hmm.
They had a helicopter, which was pretty cool, that escorted us. And the helicopter actually landed out here in front of the building for a safe touchdown.
Yeah.
But, it's a cool thing. I'd love to do it. I mean, OOIDA, I'm a veteran. Todd's a veteran. We have a lot of veterans that work here. We have Truckers for Troops. We got a whole wall of flags down there from veterans that sent to us. A lot of our, at one point, I haven't checked, but last I knew, 40% of our membership was veterans.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And we're proud of that, and we're proud of our veterans. We're proud to support them and do everything we can for our military and stuff. So it was an honor to do it. I know it was an honor for Todd as well. So
and if you get a chance to check this out, The Wall That Heals, it's in Buckner, Missouri right now. Doug Smith, OOIDA board member, we talked to him recently.
Yeah, he hauls it a lot.
Spiritual experience.
A late board member of ours, Steve Davenport, used to haul a lot. And I mean, you can see it all over the country. Just, you can get on their website and find out where it's going to be in your area.
Yeah, definitely.
If you ever get the opportunity, go check it out. It's a very moving experience.
Absolutely. One more thing I want to talk to you about, Lewie, and I don't think we've talked to you in depth about this, but if anybody's listened to you doing TV, radio, whatever it may be, or even in conversation with you, you make sure at the end to thank our truck drivers for everything they do out there. And this is something I think, and I'll let you explain the origins of this, but it's important to you that you do this at every opportunity. Talk about where that kind of idea came from.
Yeah, every once in a while TV or somebody cuts me off, I don't get to say it.
Hey, man, we're going to give you a few minutes.
The origin of it comes because I was a truck driver for 25 years, and the sad reality of being a truck driver is most people don't give two shits about you. They don't like you. You're in their way. They look down upon you.
Annoyed by you, yeah.
Yeah, you're annoyed. They get this, you're stigmatized. And, I'm proud of being a truck driver. It's one of the proudest things I've ever done. I'm very proud of it. I'm proud of being one. I'm proud to support truckers and trying to make trucking a better industry. Always have been. There's nothing worse than getting your butt chewed out after you've sat around a loading dock all day, ran your butt off all night to get somewhere, and then some jackass is chewing your butt and yelling at you and degrading you, and people in cars, all these different things happen. And here at OOIDA, we love truckers. As we say, unlike some agencies or trucking organizations that have driver appreciation week, it's driver appreciation around here every single day, 365 days a year. I point out to our staff and remind our staff here as well to thank truckers, try to, just say thank you, because it ain't a lot of people. It's not like being a first responder or the troops or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's very important. And I know how that felt.
Right. It's a small gesture too to hear that, but it means a lot when someone says that.
But I truly mean it. I truly appreciate it. I always tell people, and I always say it, never do we put mixed truckers and first responders, but we wouldn't have first responders if it wasn't for truckers. We wouldn't have military if it wasn't, we wouldn't have anything if it wasn't for truckers.
Yeah.
And this country forgets that. And for a small bleep in my life, during COVID, we saw truckers appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's really the only time in my life I ever feel like we've ever seen. And it also goes back.
No,
but if you go back and go to YouTube videos and watch YouTube videos from the 50s, in the early 60s about trucking and truckers.
It's a different thing, wasn't it?
They were knights of the highway.
Yeah.
They were crowd. These people do great. I mean, they're great.
Yeah.
And somewhere in the late 60s, 70s, we had this grand truck. And I know there's people out there that's going to say it's truckers' faults in the way they do, and there probably is a little truth to that, but it's just a general stigmatism. So that's why it's so important. And I say it again, thank you, truckers, for everything you do out there on behalf of myself and everybody at OOIDA. I know we got to wrap this up, but nobody would be anywhere if it wasn't for you, and thank you. And please join OOIDA and be a part of us.
Well said. Lewie Pugh, Executive Vice President of OOIDA. We appreciate your time. We'll talk to you again soon. Good work in Washington, D.C. and everywhere else. And thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up after the break here, we're going to speak with Mike Garland from Carlisle Truck Nationals. We've got a show coming up this weekend, and we'll get all the scoop right after this.
Thanks to all the hardworking drivers across the U.S. from the Allen Len Company.
Penske is the trusted source for quality used trucks. Whether you search our website, call our sales staff, or bid at our online auction, you are sure to find the right used truck for your business. Visit PenskeUsedTrucks.com to view our inventory and learn more.
High heat and low lubricity can break your diesel fuel down fast. Summer driving means crowded roads, more stress, dust, and a bigger risk of costly engine damage. Howe's Diesel Defender protects from the inside out, cleaning, lubricating, and fighting injector wear. Visit HowsProducts.com.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
At Truck Stop, we built a better load board for carriers like you. Sign up today and access over 600,000 loads on the most trusted online load board. Learn why the best in the business rely on Truck Stop to make more money and start driving your profit today.
Welcome back to Trucking with OOIDA. We're going to take a quick trip to Carlisle, Pennsylvania now, where an event described as Bringing Your Toy Box to Life is being held this weekend. The Carlisle Truck Nationals run from Friday to Sunday, and joining us with details is Mike Garland of Carlisle Events. Mike, I know you're in scramble mode right now, getting the show ready and up and running, so thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for taking some time. Always happy to talk about the truck show and everything that we've got going on at Carlisle.
Yeah, I was looking at the website. You have a lot going on, and we'll try to cover kind of the main points here over the next several minutes. But as I mentioned, the Carlisle Truck Nationals running from Friday through Sunday at the Carlisle Fairgrounds in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. How many years does this make now?
Oh, for the company, we've been 50 plus. We started in 1974, truck shows going back a couple of decades. So whether you come to the truck show or one of the other events on our schedule, we've been a long-time staple in the automotive community.
Yeah, and as I said, we'll try to cover kind of the main highlights here because there is a lot going on over the 3 days there. And one thing I like about truck shows, they come in all shapes and sizes. One reason I enjoy them so much because each one's a little bit different from the next one. This particular one, I think, truly does have a little something for everyone. How would you, if you were to describe this show to someone who wasn't familiar, how would you describe it to them?
Well, I mean, you said it best, and I think you might have used my own words, but it's true. It is an event that brings your toy box to life. It's an automotive adventure, and it's a playground like no other, because when you come out to the truck show, look, we set a record last year for most trucks ever at this event at 2,878, and here we are heading into event weekend already trending above where we were at this point last year. So we are on track to set a new record for the Carlisle Truck Nationals. It's an event that welcomes families of all ages and backgrounds. You have activities for the kids, you have fun for the adults, and a little bit of everything in between.
And I did. You caught me, Mike. I did steal your own words there, bringing the toy box to life. And, looking, yeah, you can send the bill to me, I guess, in the mail here. But, looking at the event schedule and looking at the videos that come out of here, it's hard to really kind of pinpoint one event, over the others. I want to kind of run through the list here and maybe you can talk about kind of the idea behind all this. You've got like a low truck limbo. You've got a high truck challenge, drop and drag, rolling burnouts, multi-round exhaust contests, and more. If someone's coming there, they're going to be able to find something that they like to watch. For you yourself, what do you kind of look for? What are you drawn to, I suppose, at this show in particular?
So I think personally, since you put me on the spot, I think it's the antique trucks, whether it's an antique hauler or an antique fire truck or the old farm trucks from a pickup truck standpoint. I like the vehicles of yesteryear, and we certainly get a nice range from early era production vehicles to more modern day trucks with lift kits and stock vehicles as well. There really is something for every truck enthusiast. And when somebody says, well, what can be part of the show? I say, as long as it's not a car, it's welcome. It could be a rat rod of sorts. As long as it's classified more as a truck than a car, it is welcome to be part of the show. So that's why you see Jeeps and SUVs and vans and pickup trucks of all sizes and the antique fire trucks and the big rigs and the heavy equipment. So it really is a gallery of everything that's truck.
Yeah. Those rolling burnouts, I imagine, are pretty popular too.
Hugely popular.
Yeah.
We usually reserve the burnout list for about 10 names at our other shows, but for this show, it's something like 25 because there's such a demand for it. So we have a lot of competitors. They get 3 minutes to go have fun. Now, because of safety and insurance and liability and all the things that we deal with in 2025, it is just a rolling burnout, but you've got 100, 150 yards to really smoke the tires and have fun. And if you can work it properly, you can get a good plume of smoke. You can put on a great show. And I mean, the crowd is standing, dozens deep overlooking our track, watching these wheels in motion activities. And that's the thing is, I think any good car show, whether it's our truck show or our Ford show or our Chrysler show or whatever we offer, people, they like looking at the vehicles on display, but they also like seeing those wheels in motion. And that's why we give you the high truck challenge where the lifted trucks that have been augmented or modified can roll in and we can measure from the ground to the pinch weld. And that's where you have the low truck limbo so that you have the mini trucks or other vehicles that have had some augmentation that might be able to use some hydraulics to drop pretty low. They can go under the limbo bar. The exhaust competition. People have modified their trucks, but there's stock options as well. So what do these trucks sound like? We want to see those wheels in motion and hear the sound. So we try to give everybody a little entertainment beyond just looking at the trucks.
And then, speaking of looking at trucks, you do have a truck show component of this as well, right? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we have a judged and non-judged show field. National Parts Depot supports our judged show field. So depending on the price point that you want to pay into, you can either have your vehicle judged professionally by the crew from ejudged.com, or you can just park and hang out and socialize and have a good time. So that is up to the consumer, whether they want to be part of the judged or non-judged show fields. We also have large club competitions, coolest club competitions. So the truck clubs come out in full force. And that carries over to our big rig show and shine area as well, where we do largest fleet or best convoy. And we really try to embrace the trucking side of things into our show, as we've seen our big rig show and shine grow exponentially over the last couple of years as well. I think we had 200 to 300 big rigs that were part of the event last year, and we would anticipate something similar here in 2025.
And then Saturday night, you've got a light show, a night glow show that goes on as well. And I think that's open to pretty much anybody who wants to participate too.
Yeah, the Glow Show is open really to anybody on grounds, but it is more specifically for the big rig show and shine participants. We all see these trucks on the highway, but rarely do we get to look at them in the way that you can when they come to life at the Glow Show. And look, we have 18 different truck classes that are part of our big rig show and shine. We have ample space for these truck owners to park their vehicles. And you think about our location, so centrally located on the East Coast in the Mid-Atlantic. We use the phrase all roads lead to Carlisle, but it's kind of true when you think about I-81 and I-83 and Interstate 80 and where 95 is and 15 coming up through central Pennsylvania. And we're not all that far from 95 going up the Atlantic coast. So truckers can roll in, and instead of pulling into one of the truck stops that they may find along the way, you could just pull into our grounds. We have hot food, hot showers, 24-hour security. So when you come out, you have a good time, and you can check out other trucks, mix and mingle with other big rig owners, but then go see the pickup trucks on the show field too.
I was looking just now at the list also, and I failed to mention what, if I were going, and unfortunately I'm not going to be able to make it out there, but if I were going, I'd be most, I think, interested in the monster trucks and some of the freestyle motocross jump stunts that you have going on as well. That looks like a really good time.
It's so cool. And, you always hear that phrase, you can buy the seat, but you're not going to need it or whatever. It's the edge of your seat excitement where you get a couple of monster trucks that, it's not going to be like Monster Jam, but these are Monster Jam trucks. So, you can see the trucks accelerate, rev the engine, the power, the sound of a monster truck, and then it hits these cars and they pop up in the air and you get a huge wheelie and a jump, and they kind of compete against each other, and the kids love it. We have Virginia Giant that comes, Deal Wilson, legendary monster truck driver, now offers monster truck rides in his Virginia Giant ride truck. And then we have these freestyle motocross stunt jumpers that come in and they're flying through the air and they're doing the Captain Morgan pose, or they're going hands-free as they, fly across the jump ramp and the landing pad. And just the kids love it. The kids love that. The kids love the fact that they have a chance to win some money in the kids' cash grab. We have Oxford Power Wheels Racing. We have goodie bags for the kids and RC car giveaways, and they can pick a truck in one of our display buildings for an award. So it really is an opportunity for all generations to engage and get involved.
Yeah, it really does look like one of these shows where everybody's a kind of a kid as they're walking around and checking out all there is to check out, which I think is cool. Is weather going to hold up for you? I haven't looked at the forecast, but
so we know that it's been warm the last couple of weeks in Central PA, but it looks like we are going to have nice, tolerable weather Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I mean, I'm talking highs in like the upper 70s to low 80s throughout the weekend. I mean, it's Chamber of Commerce kind of weather, at least, what the forecasts are saying. But that's the crazy thing about weather, is it can change in the blink of an eye. So if you're waiting to see what the weather looks like before you come, you've probably waited too long. This is a destination event. Come on out and be part of it. There's still time to register your truck or your big rig. You can just roll up and do it in person. If you want to buy a ticket and come out as a spectator, we sell them at the gate. We also sell them online at carlisleevents.com, where you can get them at a bit of a discount. We offer student and military discounts with an ID at the gate. So there's really no reason not to get involved unless you actually have other plans. And then at that point, I would encourage you to change your plans and come out and check out the truck show this weekend.
Absolutely. Mike, give us that website one more time.
So it's carlisleevents.com, 2 E's there in the middle. You can also download the Carlisle Events app. It's available in the, wherever you find your apps on your iPhone or your Android device. And it's got all the details, the links to buy tickets, info on the activities, info on the Big Rig Show and Shine. You can learn about partners like Bergey's Truck Centers. They're one of our great regional Mack and Volvo dealers. Kenworth of PA, the Pete Store. Like, there is so many truck vendors that come and set up on our Manufacturers Midway, within the automotive flea market, in the Big Rig area. No shortage of options for parts shopping as well.
Absolutely, Mike. Like I said, if I were in the area, I'd be there this weekend. Unfortunately, I won't, but hopefully I can make it out at some point in the future. But wishing you a good time this weekend. Looks like a good time. I'm sure a bunch of people are going to be out there enjoying the weekend, enjoying the weather, enjoying everything that the show has to offer. And Mike, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Last thing, kids 12 and under get in free, so it's even affordable family fun. And you said you couldn't make it this weekend. Well, how about you save the dates? August 7th through the 9th, 2026.
There you
go. So the 1st through the 3rd this year, 7th through the 9th in 2026. Make your plans.
I'll circle it on my calendar. Mike, thanks again. We really do appreciate it, and take care. Have a great weekend. Our thanks again to Mike Garland for his time there, and that's our show for today. We're back tomorrow with another when we'll have our friends from Landline Magazine in studio to go over all the latest trucking news in depth. We'll also preview their August-September issue, which is hot off the presses. So we hope to see you then. Thanks for listening. Today's episode of Trucking with OOIDA was brought to you by a dedicated team of people that includes Jim Fetzer, Keegan White, Tennille Flick, and Kim Boren.
Got thoughts? We'd love to hear them. Call us at 1-800-324-6856 and leave us a message. Or you can send us an email to podcast@ooida.com, and we might include it on the show.